This is a world where money has no value. Time is everything. If you want to buy something here, you have to give up some of your life in exchange for it. Only then will you be able to buy it. But to live a good life in this world, you also need to have time. Because here, when a person reaches 25 years of age, a year of time starts counting down on that person's hand. The moment the countdown reaches 0, that person dies. The rich had so much time that they could have lived 1,000 years. The rich had created a separate world for themselves, where they lived a comfortable life. But on the other hand, the poor people living in the ghetto city worked day and night to earn time for themselves. Otherwise, their lives would be over. In this slum, there lived a boy named Will, who had only 23 hours left on his watch. Will lived with his mother. Now, because aging stops after 25, his mother looked incredibly young even at 50. Today was Will's mother's 50th birthday. To celebrate her birthday, Will had worked overtime the previous night and brought a bottle of champagne. Seeing this, Will's mother was overjoyed and told Will, "I want to see my grandchildren. Why don't you date a girl?" To which Will replied, "Who has time for all that?" Will's mother told him, "I have to clear the electricity bill and the bank loan by tomorrow. Otherwise, we might get fined. So, I'm going to go and pay all the bills and bank loans by tomorrow night and be back." He said, "I only have 3 days. Paying off the electricity bill and bank loan will take up almost all of my time. So, be sure to wait for me at the bus stop tomorrow evening so I can take some time from you before my time runs out." Will replied, "Okay, I'll be on time." Before leaving, Will's mother touches Will's hand and transfers 30 minutes of mental energy into his body so Will can buy and eat a good breakfast. After this, both of them set off on their work. On the way, a little girl approaches Will. She gives him a capsule and asks for a little of his time. Will smiles and gives the little girl 5 minutes of his life in the capsule, and she leaves. Here, we learn that people can also store their time in a capsule, which they can use and transfer at any time. After this, Will arrives at the factory for work. Before starting work, he goes to get coffee. But there he finds that the price of everything has doubled. Where coffee used to be available for 2 minutes, it now doubles to 4 minutes. The price of anything can be increased at any time, without any announcement. This upsets Will. Out of compulsion, Will paid 4 minutes of his life for coffee and got to work. After a long day's work, Will goes to a bar with his friend at night. Will's friend was a notorious alcoholic. He was always drunk. Will's friend signaled to Will that the man was serving free drinks to everyone and had plenty of time. Hearing this, Will looked at the man and found him surrounded by girls. When Will looked at the man's watch, he saw that he had 116 years of time. Seeing this, Will realized that the man was from Greenwich City, because in Ghetto City, people have a maximum of 2 days' time. Will approached the man and warned him that he shouldn't be here. There's a danger of thieves. These people will kill you and steal your time. So get out of here quickly. But the man didn't take Will's words seriously and ignored him and started drinking. Just then, a gangster named Fortis entered the bar with his gang. Seeing him, everyone ran out. In fact, these are the city's most powerful gangsters who forcibly steal people's time. Will's friend grabbed Will and tried to take him away. But Will refused to go and hid in a corner, watching everything. Fortis had come to steal all the rich man's time. Fortis challenges the rich man to a hand-to-hand fight, and the loser gives up all his time. This time fight was like arm wrestling, where 2 people had to hold each other's wrists. Whoever's wrist was lower would lose time, and that time would be transferred to the hand of the person with the wrist higher. The winner would take all the time stored in their body and kill the other man. Fortis asks the man, "Are you ready for this?" The rich man replies, "I've had too much to drink, so I need some time. After that, I'm ready for your challenge." Fortis says, "Okay, this is your last wish. Go ahead, I'll give you a few minutes to get ready." Fortis sends one of his men with him to prevent him from running away. The rich man comes to the bathroom and starts vomiting profusely because he was high. So if he had fought Fortis in this condition, the rich man would have lost. Just then Will arrives. After killing Fortis's man, Will takes the rich man out of the place with him and rescues him from Fortis and brings him to a safe place. Will tells the rich man, "I told you that your life is in danger. Why are you wasting your time? The man tells Will his name is Henry and asks him, "How old are you?" Will says, 28 years old. Henry said, "I'm 105 years old, and I'm tired of life. I've enjoyed everything in my life, and I don't need this life anymore. I don't want to live." Hearing this, Will asked in surprise, "What are you trying to say?" Henry replied, "I think you're still unaware of reality. Have you ever wondered why different time zones exist in this world? Why, in your time zone, prices and taxes are raised at any time? In fact, inflation is deliberately fueled so that poor people continue to die, and the rich in the Greenwich time zone continue to profit from their deaths. In fact, this entire system was created by them. Just imagine, people in the Greenwich time zone have thousands of years to live. But here in the Gates, you people work hard every day to survive. That's because they forced you to do so. They've forced you to spend more time, so you're forced to work for them. They're forcing you to spend more and more time by increasing inflation so they can live forever with your time. They've earned every day of their lives from the deaths of the poor, and I don't want to live a life that's earned from the death of a poor, helpless person." Hearing all this, Will realized that Henry was a very kind-hearted person. Henry asked Will further, "If you had as much time as I did, what would you do?" Will smiled and said, "First of all, I would stop constantly checking the time, because even then, Will only has 18 hours. He keeps checking his watch all the time, before going to bed, after going to bed, and while eating, because he's afraid he'll run out of time and die." Will says, "My mom works very hard to manage the house. If I had as much time as you, I would buy my mom a nice house in Greenwich City, and we would both live happily there." After this, Will told Henry, "We have to stay here tonight. The danger will be over by morning. Then you can return home." After this, they both went to sleep. In the morning, Henry woke up and saw that Will was still asleep. He came to Will and transferred all his time to him, leaving him with only a few minutes left. He went and sat on top of a bridge. When Will woke up, he saw that Henry had left. Then, as usual, Will looked at his watch. 116 years had been added to Will's watch. Seeing this, his eyes widened. He thought he was still asleep and dreaming. Just then, Will's gaze fell on the window, which had been lit. It was written, "Don't waste my time." He realizes that Henry has given me all his time. Just then, Will sees Henry sitting on the edge of a bridge. Will quickly runs towards Henry, but it's too late, because Henry only has a few seconds left. A moment later, he dies from a jolt and falls off the bridge into the water. Will is deeply saddened by Henry's death. Now, Will had 116 years left to live, and he realizes that if he stays here, people will think he killed Henry. Will quickly goes to his friend. Will's friend is shocked to see so much time in his hands. After which, Will gives his friend 10 years for the sake of friendship. Seeing this, Will's friend thanks him profusely. Will says that it's no longer right for him to stay here because, given so much time, no one will dare to take away his time. He could even kill me. Now I can buy my mother a nice house in Greenwich City and live a safe life there. After saying goodbye to his friend, Will leaves and goes straight to the bus stop where he waited for his mother. 2 days earlier, his mother had told him that she would arrive at the bus stop after paying off her electricity bill and bank loan. Meanwhile, Will's mother, after paying off all her debts and bills, boarded the bus to return home. Only then did she discover that the price of bus tickets had doubled in a single day. Previously, the fare for a ticket was 1 hour, but now it was 2 hours. This upset Will's mother, who only had 1.5 hours left. Will's mother pleaded with the bus driver, saying, "My son will give her the remaining time at the next stop." But the driver flatly refused. She refused and said, "If you don't have time, then walk." But Will's mom knew the next bus stop was far away. Even if she walked, it would take her 2 hours to reach. There were a lot of passengers on the bus at that time. Will's mom pleaded with them, but no one helped her. Just then, the bus left. Will's mom, Rachel, didn't have much time left, so she started running back home. Will, meanwhile, was carrying flowers for his mom who was waiting for her at the bus stop, holding a bouquet, because he had to celebrate his mother's birthday. When the bus arrived at the stop, many passengers got off, but Will's mother was missing. Will became worried and realized that his mother was in trouble. He immediately ran to find her. Meanwhile, Rachel had only a few minutes left. She was knocking on the doors of passing cars and people's houses, asking for some time, but no one was willing to help her. When Will went a little distance, he saw his mother running. Seeing his mother running, Will realized that she didn't have much time. He extended his hand and started running towards her. Meanwhile, Rachel had only 10 seconds left, and she too was running towards Will at full speed. But just as Rachel reaches her son Will, her time runs out and she dies. This deeply saddens Will, who had thought so much for his mother. He breaks down in tears. By the next morning, Henry's dead body is found by the timekeepers. These timekeepers conduct investigations. In today's world, there were timekeepers who were like the police. Their job is to prevent crime. Timekeepers officer Raymond thoroughly investigated the area but found no clues. Then Raymond noticed a CCTV camera near the bridge. He set off for the CCTV room to check the footage. Meanwhile, Will understood that the wealthy people living in Greenwich were responsible for his mother's death, who had made the people of the ghetto city dependent on every second. Now, Will sets out for Greenwich to seek revenge, and this is where the real story begins. To enter Greenwich City, Will had to spend a year's time, and he finally arrived. When Will saw the lifestyles of the wealthy, his eyes widened. People there had so much time that they forgot about death. Even the wealthy's bodyguards had more than 100 years of time. This enrages Will, because in the city he came from, people only had 24 hours to live. Will stays at an expensive hotel. While eating, a beautiful woman looks at Will as if she's attracted to him. Meanwhile, Raymond, the timekeeper, is checking the CCTV footage of Henry's death. He then spots Will in the footage. However, the camera didn't record Henry falling from the bridge. But in that footage, Will was seen standing near the bridge, which made Raymond suspicious. So, Raymond instructed his team to gather information about Will. During the research, the timekeepers discovered that a man named Will had spent a lot of time entering Greenwich City. This confirmed to Raymond that Will had killed Henry. Raymond immediately left for Greenwich with his team. Meanwhile, in Greenwich, Will arrived at a casino where some wealthy people were playing poker. He joined them. Seeing a new man, they laughed at him. But Will was an expert at gambling. Today was his perfect opportunity to extort money from the rich. Will played poker with a wealthy man named Philip. Philip is the richest man there. He has his own time bank, which loans time to people. His daughter is sitting with Philip. This is the same girl who was watching Will intently a moment ago. When the game begins, Will puts his entire life's time at stake, and thanks to his intelligence, he wins 1,100 years from Philip. Seeing this, Philip's daughter, Sylvia, is deeply impressed by Will. She invites Will to a party at her house last night. Then, the next evening, Will buys a brand new car and arrives at Philip's party. During the party, Will and Sylvia begin dancing, and Sylvia falls in love with Will. She is about to confess her feelings to Will when timekeeper Raymond arrives with his team and captures Will. Thinking Will is the murderer, Sylvia becomes angry with him. Raymond first took away all of Will's time, giving him only 2 hours. Then, he began arresting Will for Henry's murder. Raymond asked Will why he killed Henry. Will told him, "I didn't kill him, but he didn't want to live. So he gave me 116 years, and then he took his own life." But Raymond didn't believe Will. Will understood that Raymond would frame him in Henry's false case and send him to prison for life. So, he freed himself by killing Raymond's men at the first opportunity. He took their gun and captured Sylvia. Using Sylvia as a shield, Will escaped with her, eluding Raymond and his men, and returned to Ghetto City. Will had very little time left. He asks Sylvia for some time, but she refuses to give him even a second, believing him to be Henry's killer. So he speeds toward the town of Ghetto, hoping to borrow time from someone there. In his haste, he overlooks the barbed wire strung across the road ahead, causing Will's car to crash into a bridge. Will and Sylvia were knocked unconscious in the accident. Fortis and his gang had actually planted the thorns along the road. Fortis saw that Sylvia had 10 years of time. He stole all of Sylvia's time and fled. Just then, Will and Sylvia regained consciousness. When Sylvia looked at her hand, She was worried because she had only 30 minutes left, and Will also had a few. Nevertheless, she gave Sylvia a few minutes of her own, making their time equal. Will then quickly took Sylvia to the house of his friend, to whom he had given 10 years. When his friend's wife opened the door and saw Will, she expressed her displeasure, saying, "The 10 years you gave me cost my husband his life. He wasted all that time on alcohol, which led to his death." Hearing this, Will was devastated. But now, neither of them had much time. If they didn't act quickly, their death was certain. Then Will noticed a diamond earring in Sylvia's ear. By selling it, Will and Sylvia bought 2 days' time. Will then took Sylvia to a phone booth. He called Sylvia's father, Philip, and informed him that his daughter was still safe. At that time, Raymond was with Philip, and Will knew Raymond was also there. In exchange for releasing Sylvia, Will asked for 10,000 years of time. He promised to distribute those 10,000 years among the poor through the time bank, and gave him time until tomorrow morning. Although this amount was nothing to Philip, Philip was determined to give up time to the poor at any cost. Meanwhile, Will brought Sylvia to his home, where they both waited for dawn. Meanwhile, Sylvia asked Will where his family was. Will told her that his mother had died last night because he had no time. Hearing this, Sylvia felt deeply saddened and realized how poor people live in constant fear of death. They have to work so hard to earn a single day's time. The next morning, as soon as the bank opened, Will and Sylvia watched the bank from the window. But the bank refused to distribute time to the poor. Sylvia was deeply disappointed to see that even her own daughter was worthless to her father compared to time. Now Sylvia understood that her father was not just a businessman, but the head of this system. He amassed years of his life from the deaths of poor people. Seeing Sylvia so despondent, Will decided to send her back home. He brought her to a phone booth and asked her father to call for help. During this time, Will also gives Sylvia a weapon so she can protect herself. Sylvia was talking to her father on the phone when timekeeper Raymond sneaked up and pointed a gun at Will. Raymond was about to shoot Will when Sylvia saw Raymond and, in panic, shot him. Seeing this, Will panicked and rushed to Raymond. However, the bullet had grazed Raymond's hand. Raymond was bleeding profusely. Will checked Raymond's watch. Raymond had only 2 hours left. In fact, even timekeepers received only 1 day's time as salary. Will realized that by the time his team members reached Raymond, he would have died from excessive bleeding. So Will gave Raymond 2 hours and left with Raymond's car. By shooting Raymond, Sylvia was now on the crime list. However, Will told Sylvia that she could escape from all this. But in Greenwich, Sylvia's life was like a caged bird. Her father, Philip, had imposed many restrictions on her. But here, she felt a sense of freedom because she was the master of her own will, and Sylvia understood that injustice was being done to people there. Now, she joined Will in helping the poor get their rights. Will and Sylvia began robbing the rich. Sylvia, who knew every inch of Greenwich City, hatched a plan to steal time capsules from banks in Greenwich and distribute them among the poor. Sylvia first robbed her father Philip's numerous banks because Philip had collected all the time capsules from the deaths of the poor. They packed all the time capsules from the vaults into a bag, escaped, and began distributing them among the poor. After such a massive heist, the government was fed up with them. Therefore, the government placed a 10-year time bounty on their heads. Upon hearing this, gangster Fortis began searching for them like a dog. But Will and Sylvia changed their locations daily, making them undetectable. They were hiding in a hotel. They were not short of time, so they had booked the entire hotel. Fortis arrived outside the hotel in search of them. There, he caught some people and started asking them about Will and Sylvia. But those people were very grateful to Will and Sylvia. So these men were ready to die, but they weren't willing to reveal Will and Sylvia's whereabouts. However, when Fortis pressured them too much, one of them, fearing death, told Fortis the location of the hotel where Will and Sylvia were hiding. Fortis immediately arrived with his gang and captured them. Now, Will and it was impossible for Sylvia to escape them. Fortis sat Will down at a table and challenged him to a time fight. Will understood that if he refused the challenge, Fortis's gang would kill him. So why not try his hand at it today? Fortis and Will grabbed each other's wrists, and the game of death began. Fortis was a master player. He forced Will's hand down at the very beginning, causing Will's time to rapidly transfer to Fortis. But Will wasn't exerting any effort at all, as if he were deliberately losing. But just when Will had 3 to 4 seconds left, Will demonstrated his power and, with one blow, forced Fortis's hand down. Fortis's eyes remained wide open. He tried with all his might to raise his hand, but he had become weak in the face of Will's strength. Seeing this, Fortis's men focused on Fortis's watch. Now their boss was about to die. Seizing the opportunity, Will pulled a gun from his shoe and, in the blink of an eye, shot all of Fortis's men, because if he hadn't, they would have killed him. With this, Fortis's time went to 0, and he was also killed. Will and Sylvia quickly escaped. Just then, they realized that the rich had turned the tables. The time Will and Sylvia had distributed among the poor was now worth nothing because the rich had multiplied the rate of inflation. Seeing this, Will felt defeated and realized that he would never be able to give these poor people their rights. He told Sylvia that everything was over. Even if he distributed 1,000 years among the people, the rich would only increase inflation further, making the situation unbearable. Sylvia said there must be a way. Will replied, "We'll have to steal millions of years and give them to these people. Only then can we control inflation." However, this wasn't that easy. Sylvia had a plan. The next morning, when Philip arrived at the office with his bodyguards, Sylvia arrived and told her father that she wanted to surrender. All the guards then pointed their guns at Sylvia. But then Will, who had been hiding in the guard base, arrived from behind. He held a gun to Philip's head and forced him to open the locker door. Will and Sylvia stole a time capsule from Philip's locker, containing 1 million years of time. Each year in this time capsule came from the deaths of the poor. Will and Sylvia fled with the capsule. When Raymond learned of this, he immediately set out after Will and Sylvia. When Raymond looked at the watch on his wrist, he realized he had less than an hour left. He called headquarters and asked them to send him his salary in the capsule. He was running out of time. But before he could transfer the time from the capsule to his body, he spotted Will's car and set off after them without transferring the time from the capsule to his own body. Because if the poor received those 1 million years, every person in the ghetto time zone would become immortal, and the entire system created by the rich would collapse. Raymond tried his best to catch Will and Sylvia, but he couldn't stop them. Will and Sylvia eluded Raymond and arrived in Ghetto City and handed the time capsule to a little girl. They knew Raymond would follow them straight to Ghetto City. So they left this place and went to a deserted place. Meanwhile, they had distributed millions of years among the people of Ghetto City, making them immortal. But they themselves had very little time left. Unfortunately, Raymond caught them at that very moment. Raymond threatened Will, saying, "If you love your life, return all the time you stole." Then Will showed him the time on his watch. Will and Sylvia had only a few minutes left. Will said to Raymond, "Have you forgotten? Remember, when you were about to die, I lent you some time? You should return it to me." Hearing this, Raymond remembered that in his hurry to catch Will and Sylvia, he hadn't paid attention to his time. When he looked at his watch, he saw only 5 seconds left. These seconds quickly turned to 0, and Raymond was dead. Will and Sylvia had escaped Raymond, but they both had only a minute left. Moreover, there was no one to help them in that desolate area. They could clearly see their death. They embraced each other in despair, and then Will spotted Raymond's car. Will ran towards the foreign car, and upon reaching there, he transferred Raymond's salary time to his watch. He then began running towards Sylvia to give her time. Sylvia was also running fast towards Will. Sylvia had only a few seconds left. It was exactly the same moment Will had experienced when he lost his mother. Will had lost his mother, but he didn't want to lose Sylvia. Will was very close to Sylvia. But then Sylvia fell into Will's arms. Luckily, Will had held Sylvia's hand just in time. This saved his life. Thanks to Will and Sylvia, all the people of Dayton had now become immortal. No longer did they need to work in factories to earn an hourly wage. They all set out to fulfill their dreams in Greenwich City, which brought the entire system created by the rich to a standstill. At the same time, this story ends.